Welcome to Coach My Wellness, a weekly show dedicated to bringing you information about healthy habits and behaviors just for the health of it. Here's your hosts, Joanne and Tammy.
Welcome back to Coach My Wellness with your hosts, Joanne and Tammy. In part one, we were talking today about the Buddha brain. And we'd like to continue on that because it's such an intriguing subject. Tammy, do you want to recap that a little bit?
Sure. I think where we left off was talking about how you can change the physical structure of your brain by sifting positive emotions into negative memories. And so by doing that, you gradually change the association. It takes time, it takes consistency, but research shows that you can change that neural firing that brings up different emotions. So in all of that, part of the work of doing that is what I left off with, pulling weeds and planting flowers. And what that means is it's your job. It becomes your job to become the gardener of your own thought process.
Oh, I like that.
Right? So
That's awesome.
You can have the New York Botanical Gardens in your brain if that's what you choose to have. Or you could have, the swamps and fever swamps of Florida in your brain if that's what you choose to have. The problem is so many of us have the fever swamps of Florida mucking around in our thought process because we just don't realize that we have control over our thought process. We think, oh, I can't control my thoughts. I've always thought this way. Yeah, because that was the initial conditioning from when you were small and the thoughts that were the implicit memories that were put there. So those are the emotions that are tied to them that continues that reinforcing that negative memory and that negative feeling.
So it sounds as though gradually replacing those negative implicit memories with positive ones is a task that can be accomplished. How do you think that people can work on that?
So it's about recognizing that our brain has a natural negativity bias. Our brain automatically goes to, oh my God, I can be eaten by the saber-toothed tiger, so I can't go out there. That noise means that, or that look on someone's face is threatening to me. And so we can recognize that and we can begin to say, no, just because that look happened does not mean that this negative thing is going to happen.
It really does seem like, from what you're saying, that there are so many implicit memories that we have from our childhood, and those are the things that really keep upsetting us. And I know that people get angry with themselves, I certainly do, about still being affected by things from the past. And listening to you, what you're saying is that the brain is truly designed to change through experiences, especially those negative ones, and that we learn from our experiences, particularly those that happen during childhood. And I guess it's natural for that learning to stick with us.
It really is, but the amazing thing about our brain is this thing called neuroplasticity, which means your brain can actually reshape itself depending on the thoughts that you think, the beliefs, nurturing those positive emotions and experiences. That's why it's really important to take in those positive experiences that you have. So as you move through the spring and summer, even if you're a winter person, you like snow, not me, by the way. If you take in that experience, so for me, it's springtime. And when I see the crocuses and tulips coming up, just being in the park or walking by the tulips coming up, it's like, oh, it's going to be such a great thing. The spring is coming. The new year is here. Taking in that positive experience, or even sitting with my dog and snuggling with her. It's like very comforting taking that in, which then helps to reshape the negativity bias of the brain.
So what happens when you see those beautiful dandelions and crocuses first coming up in spring, and then there are all of these weeds surrounding them, making them really not so attractive anymore?
So we all have gone out as children and picked a bouquet of dandelions for our moms, right?
Of course we
Or our
did.
grandmas or our favorite aunt, whatever. And they're very pleasant. Oh, thank you. But we don't realize that those are the weeds. We think of them as flowers. And that happens in our own brain.
Oh, is that true? Because, I honestly never thought about it like that. I always think about the weeds that surround the dandelions.
But the dandelion
Oh boy, I
itself
guess
is a
I have
weed.
some double layer. I have some double layer work to do.
Yep, the dandelion is the weed itself. And for all of these people who love these beautiful, lush green lawns, dandelions are the bane of their existence because you mow them out, but it doesn't get to the root. And if you don't pull out the root, then guess what? A few
They
weeks
come
later,
back.
that dandelion's coming back, man. And it's rooted in there a little bit stronger. So once you begin to do this exercise, you'll quickly begin to identify whatever's bothering you, and you'll start to develop a list of usual suspects. Those deep, deep things that keep recurring in your thoughts that bring about those negative experiences or that negative feeling that then takes the work of identifying that. And then if you see anybody who actually gardens or pulls the dandelions out of their yard, they have like this tool that's kind of long and they put it over the dandelion and then scrunch it together. And what it does is it closes underneath of the dandelion and pulls it out by the root. That one's never coming back. So the thought processes are that kind of work. It takes us saying, okay, this is what happened. This is where that emotion's coming from. And I can now, I'm grown up. I'm mature. I am not a child anymore. And I can begin to counterbalance those things. So like when you're feeling helpless, kind of like when you did as a child, you can stop in the situation. And while it may be a negative situation, you're not helpless.
I love that. So when you find the tip of the root and you take that and really kind of work on it and dislodge it, it will release that hold that it has on you. And it sounds as though that by pulling those weeds and maybe putting some beautiful flowers in there instead, you'll have the garden in your mind.
Exactly. And planting the flower is just as important as pulling the weed out by the root. So if I'm feeling helpless or overwhelmed, because that's tapping into a very old thing that happened to me, I can now say, wait, I'm not 5. My mother did not forget me at school and is not here to pick me up, right? So I don't have to feel like I'm helpless or abandoned or any of those things. I have the reasoning skills now.
I think the trick of it, though, is to take those painful experiences and in order to heal from them is to replace those with positive ones or something that's their opposite. So, for example, as you're talking about childhood, replacing those childhood feelings of being weak with a current sense of strength.
Mm-hmm.
If sadness from a mistreatment in an old relationship keeps coming up, maybe you can recall being loved by other people and let those feelings sink in. I was talking earlier about taking a deep breath and just enjoying the moment and letting it sink in and being present in the moment instead of just letting the time kind of flit by and not taking any responsibility for thoughts or for actions. And when you let those feelings sink in, the power of language can be so important to you. And you could say things to yourself like, I got through all that. I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
People still love me. I say a lot, well, what is the worst scenario? Truly, what is the worst thing that can happen? And when you start breaking it down, that's when change starts to happen. And as you know and I know, that the most challenging part of making a decision is truly not necessarily the decision, it's making the decision. Because once you make the decision, you just kind of go with it. But the torment that we go through and the struggles and the wasting of time, in my opinion, is just something that would be best for us if we could let it go.
Right. And that's it, because in that decision-making process, part of what makes us go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth is we don't want to make the wrong decision because we don't want to have that negative experience again. Where if we're able to get to the root, we're not going to forget the old negative experience, but the hold it has will gradually begin to diminish as we begin to continue to put in new things. That's why it's really important to take in the good. When you're in something that's good, doing well, really taking that in and using that to water that garden on the inside where you're planting flowers. So the easiest way to think about this is when someone says, "Oh, I'm such an idiot." Like, I have a couple of clients that that's their automatic thought. "I'm such an idiot. I'm such a loser." No, you're not. That's how you felt when you were a child, because maybe you didn't have the same things that your peers had in school, or you weren't able to do the same things. Now you're a grown up. And instead of thinking, or as soon as you automatically think, "I can't do this. This is crazy. I'm trying to do this new thing and I'm just a loser and I can't." It's like, wait, hold on a second. I've done new things in the past. Just last week, I did something new. I can accomplish this. I can do this. I have been successful. But that's what takes work. That's the planting the new flowers in your garden. The more you do that, the more your garden begins to flourish. The more you take in those positive emotions and experiences, that's like watering and fertilizing their garden. The more that those little tiny seeds that you planted or bulbs that you planted earlier start to flourish, and it changes your whole perspective.
So I would say, in listening to you, that infusing those positive thoughts into negative thoughts that you might have, that there are a couple of things that might be beneficial to you. So if you're having a positive experience today, let it sink into some of those old pains that you have. In other words, I don't hide from those old pains. They kind of come up, and what that signals to me are unresolved issues. And it's a matter of working to break the pattern so that they don't keep repeating themselves because you haven't resolved them. And one of the great ways to do that is to just tap into the emotion and the feelings that you have when a scenario arises. So if you're feeling uncomfortable about something, sit back, take a moment, and think about when you've felt that feeling before. I will guarantee you that 8 out of 10 times you will come up with something in your past where you have felt that same way, whether it's that knot in your stomach or the anxiety about a certain situation that you might have, even in a social situation.
One thing that happened during the pandemic is people were craving connection and craving that interpersonal so much. But because we couldn't have it, they went to the one thing that they could have connection with, which was food. Some people, it was alcohol. Some people, it was drugs. Some people, it was shopping, and they maxed out their credit card. Those are all the things that help to satisfy cravings, but cravings are never satisfied.
You just said something that made me chuckle because one of my clients, I maybe have talked about this before. I think I did, that she has a closet that she keeps, and she'll go out shopping sometimes and she'll see, it could be a nice candle, it could be a journal because she loves to write. And if she's listening right now, I know she's laughing because we talk about this all the time. And she wraps up her things and she puts them in a closet.
Mm-hmm.
And when she's having a down moment, what she does is she goes in and she reaches and gets a gift out, her feel-good closet.
Nice.
Really hysterical. And, other people have said things such as like, oh, I've been ordering a lot from Amazon because every time I open up my door, I'm getting a present.
Right.
But the negative impact of that is what's happened to, as you said, my credit card bills and my finances and all of these other things. While I'm trying to soothe what's going on for me and the loneliness, I'm creating a whole nother scenario
Correct.
that needs to be addressed. And then, of course, there's something attached to how people choose to spend their money and what they wasted on and not saving. It's this vicious cycle that just goes on, and it all has to do with those old feelings of, well, what can I do to satisfy myself and give me comfort?
Right. And going back to cravings are never satisfied. That's the I want. Think about the 4-year-old or 5-year-old. If they're at a birthday party or something and there's a table of treats, I want them all. That's the craving. I want them all. And so it's learning how to really accurately assess, what is it that I really want? What is it that's missing? And to find balance. In meditative practices, there's a concept that life is suffering, but you choose how you want to suffer. And, I know that you also have a saying, which I love: life is hard. Losing weight's hard. Maintaining weight's hard. It's all hard, but choose your hard. Which one is harder for you? And I love that. When I feel like I'm struggling, I'll remember, Tam, it's all hard. Choose my hard. And which one is moving me forward? For me, that's how I frame it.
You're right. But you're right, Tammy. And if you think about it, who says, or where does it say that it needs to be easy?
Right. Nowhere does it say life is easy.
Where does it say that? It really doesn't. It's not as though necessarily we go through some very challenging experience and then all of a sudden, oh, life is fine and easy. That's just not life. Living life is not that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's really all about, is understanding where you are, accepting where you are, whether you have anxiety or you suffer from panic or you are overweight or you are someone who has OCD. Whatever it is, you have to own it and accept it and take responsibility for it and be accountable for it. Not just walk into a health professional and say, okay, fix me. It's just too late. You have to do the work.
And the thing is that even in therapy, when I have clients come in, and because I specialize in life after weight loss surgery, and so working with people in the couple of months before leading up to surgery and then afterwards, everybody thinks that the surgery is going to fix them.
Right.
Oh, I'm going to have surgery and I'm never going to have to think about this again. And I know that there are people out there who have had bariatric surgery who are nodding their head yes and thinking, that's what I thought. And it's been so much harder than that, because the surgery is only fixing the stomach. You have to fix the thought process, right? You have to work on changing those implicit memories and explicit memories, the negative ones and the positive ones. And one way to do that is also by taking small risks, doing things that reason tells you are fine, but your insides make you worry and want you to avoid, right? So going to the doctor, that's a fine thing to do. But, what are they going to tell me? So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to avoid that, right? And being more open about your true feelings. When you need love, ask for it. When you want to advance in your career, find out what that takes and then go for it. Ask your boss for that raise. Pay attention to the job board. Look for where you can make that and get that promotion. Those are all the things that we avoid because the implicit memory of our past childhood says, oh, don't do that. You might get turned down. Okay, so I might get turned down. Am I going to die from that? No, but I'll be embarrassed, or my boss will think, whatever, or my loved one will laugh at me if I say, I really need a hug right now. Or maybe you don't have a partner like me, I'm single, but I can still say to my friends, you know what? It's a really crappy time right now and I'm having a really hard time. Can I just get a hug from you?
Aw, yeah.
And so it's those little things, but if we can't acknowledge them to ourselves because we're afraid of what that implicit memory is going to bring up, then we never really get better. We never really change.
But it's important, though, to be able to accept taking in the good.
Right.
And it's very hard, whether it's just to say thank you or accepting the compliment. But taking in the good, it's not about putting a happy, shiny face on everything, but it's also not turning away from the hard things in life. It's about nourishing your well-being, being content, and finding this peace inside that you can always come to and you can gain things from. So some of the things to just keep in mind as we wrap up today in the key points is that, as you were saying, the explicit memories are conscious recollections of certain events or other information, things that have happened in our lives. And the implicit memories are the residual of past experience that largely remain below the awareness, but they powerfully shape the inner landscape and the atmosphere in how we think about things.
Right. And here's the thing. Positive feelings have far-reaching benefits, and they help your immune system. They help your cardiovascular system, making you less reactive to stress. They lift your mood and increase optimism and resilience and resourcefulness, right? Resilience is I get knocked down, but I stand back up. It's the old weebles wobble, but they don't fall down kind of thing. I get knocked over, but I get back up. The resourcefulness, the ideas of, how can I get back up? And the good memories help to counteract the effects of painful experiences, including trauma. It's a positive cycle. Good feelings today, taking in the good feelings today, increase the likelihood of good feelings tomorrow. So it builds on itself as your brain is building new synapses and new pathways and new gray matter. It builds for tomorrow. And the old negative, remember the way back at the beginning, we talked about use it or lose it. You're either building new neurons or your brain is snipping them off and trimming them. And so when you start building them, you gain more. So it's just this positive cycle. And it doesn't mean that everything is wonderful and peachy keen in your life. It just means that you're able to not view everything in a negative fashion.
So some of the simple things that you can do is, let's talk about these 3 quick things: turning positive facts into positive experiences and savoring those experiences. That's what I've really been working on, is being present in the moment and letting them sink in. Letting it just be there, because when experiences are consolidated in your memory, you take them wherever you go, and it just enhances your awareness about life, especially if there is something that's happening in your world that's very intense right now. You can use this to really work to put positive thoughts into your mind when a lot of negativity might be surrounding you.
And that positive memory gets consolidated into the implicit memory. So the explicit experience right now of holding that positive experience while remembering the negative one, but putting the negative one at the back of your mind, holding that positive helps to infuse positive material into the negative. And simply having a prominent experience be prominent in the awareness while the painful one is sensed dimly in the background, it helps sink into, soothe, and replace old pains. So if you think about the positive as you're doing these things for yourself that old, hard, crusty ground that nothing can grow in. Think about arid, dry things. When you start doing this, that's where the positive creates more positive, and it sinks in and it softens and it begins to grow and flourish.
Well, these neural circuits that you're talking about had started forming before you were born. And the beauty of our bodies is that the brain will keep learning and it will change up until your very last breath.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to us to engage our brains and to continue to learn and continue to grow. And one of my other lines that I say pretty much to everybody is, if you have goals, that's what it's all about. If you don't have goals, you don't know where you're going. So if you reevaluate your goals, are you moving closer to them or further away from them? That's the question to keep coming back to in thinking about, how do I want to proceed with moving forward in my life with this positive mindset when everything around me is falling apart? Well, you can't help everything else around you. It's where you are in this present moment, not where you were 10 years ago, not where you'll be in 10 years from now. It's where you are today. It's living in that moment and not only absorbing the negativity and the challenges that are happening in your life, but also acknowledging and celebrating the successes and the good things that happen in your life, no matter how small they are. And hold on to those. Hold on to those thoughts.
Mm-hmm. And, it goes back to one of my favorite sayings. You just said it, being in the moment. And that's part of mindfulness. And mindfulness is the awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, in the service of self-understanding and wisdom. When Jon Kabat-Zinn came up with this whole concept and defined it like that, it's an amazing thing when you begin to actually implement it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Tammy. You got so much information today from you regarding this, so thank you so much. We'd like to thank you for joining us today on our latest episode of Coach My Wellness, Just for the Health of It, featuring your hosts, Joanne and Tammy. Please join us on Thursday evenings, Eastern Standard Time, on our Instagram channel at CoachMyWellness_CMW for our live chat with our viewers. And we'll be back every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 a.m. Pacific Coast Time on 360 Talk Radio for Women. We are so excited that you were able to join us today, and keep coming back, and we have lots more to give.
Absolutely. See you next week.
See you next week, everyone.
You've been listening to Coach My Wellness. For more information about healthy habits and behaviors, visit our website at CoachMyWellness.com and follow us on Instagram at CoachMyWellness_CMW for weekly live streams, Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. We hope to see you there.